What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Carpool Gaming's The PlayStation Drive. My name is Matt, and I'll be your host for this adventurous events. This is our 93rd adventure. Joined, not as always, but returning to the show, a very special guest, one of my favorite people in this entire wonderful planet of ours, the $2 hero himself, Mr. Seth Sturgill. What's up, Seth?
Aw, it's very sweet of you. Hey, dude, happy to be rocking with you today. Court's laid up on a beach somewhere, and it's me and you, buddy. We're doing it.
It's me and you, buddy. He's sprawled out on some beach somewhere in Florida, getting low, doing all the stuff. We're wishing him. Hopefully, he's having a wonderful one.
An adorbs time.
An adorbs time. I'm sure he is just rolling in adorbs. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about Suicide Squad. We're going to be talking about PSVR 2 and a whole lot more, so strap in and get ready. But before we do all of that, let's clean up this dirty old garage of ours, because if you're watching us live on youtube.com/carpoolgaming right now, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment. We like comments, folks. Comments let us reach other people, and then we can bring new people into this little universe of ours. Drop a comment on the video. We appreciate all of you in the chat. We appreciate all of you who listen on podcast services. Whichever service you're listening on, make sure you subscribe. Hit us with those 5 stars. Leave us a wonderful review there too, because it makes our hearts happy. And of course, if you have extra bucks to toss our way, head to patreon.com/carpoolgaming. Toss a buck in the old tip jar, tip yo drivers, and out comes a cornucopia of content for you to consume and enjoy. But without further ado, Seth, you know, you and I, we like to connect. We like to talk. We have lots of amazing Discord chats, primarily around music. We talk about the music we like, the things that we enjoy, the different musical stylings of the creators of the world. That's kind of where we land on our topic. So I thought the perfect place to start with you, my good friend Seth, is knowing what's been on your playlist lately, what you've been playing.
Oh man, that was a great way to get us there. And you're very right. We look, I mean, 99% of our conversations are either about like BTS or something else, you know. So
Porter Robinson, yeah, we're all there.
Yeah, Porter Robinson, yeah, totally. So this weekend I replayed through the 2 Portal games.
Nice.
Which was fun. Like I have a friend who's doing kind of a mini, basically what we do for backtrackers in the Carpool gaming community. He's doing like a mini version of that with like a small group of our friends.
Okay.
And we played through Portal 1 and 2. And yeah, you know, those games are like amazing. Like those are just like some of my favorite games of all time, and it's just a perfect weekend game. You can play through both of them in like 6 hours. So like, yeah, just wonderful games.
So
that was a good time.
I have to ask, what was the sudden urge to kind of kick back into Portal? Was it because your friends been playing through them? Did you do anything co-op into the second one? Tell me about your experience.
We could have. A couple of them were playing co-op. I played it like later because I'm so busy. It's like hard for me to make time. But over the weekend, it was like the perfect experience. By that point, everybody else in the group had already like played through it. I was like very last minute. But I just did them both single player. I'd played the co-op before, like when the game first came out, but even just like as a single player experience, they're just immaculate. Like they're just fantastic, even better than I remember. Like it was just so wonderful going back to them.
I'm so happy to hear that, because like I'm not usually one that enjoys puzzle games that much, but Portal is just something about it is just so addicting, and like it's so incredibly designed. I've always kind of thought about going back to Portal 2 and playing it with Senna to see if she'd enjoy it, because she's very particular about the games that she likes to play. But I think this would get her brain moving enough that I think she'd like it. So I might have to follow your lead and hop into Portal 2 in the next little bit, because those games are so good. So good.
Yeah, it's wonderful. They're very, very like immaculate, you know, little experiences. Speaking of the backtrackers, I also started playing Sable, which is the current backtrackers game.
Nice.
For anybody who doesn't know, the backtrackers is Carpool Gaming's sort of little community inside the community. This little like pocket. This little, I call it video game church. It's a video game book club, but I call it church. Because it's a group of people who essentially, you know, choose a game to play about once a month and then link up and chat about it. And everybody there is very like open and just kind of willing to have like deep emotional conversations about games. And it's amazing. Everybody's invited. Right now we're playing Sable. And I believe the meetup is on the 25th. It's the 25th, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. is our meetup about Sable. So I'm playing that, really enjoying it. For anybody who hasn't played Sable, I'm playing it on PS5, so
Nice.
very appropriate here on the PlayStation Drive. It is essentially like if you took, man, it's like an kind of open world, like Star Wars, like Breath of the Wild meets Star Wars or
It's
something.
it's really interesting. I played through a little bit of it back when it
Hmm.
came out, and it reminded me of like Journey meets Breath of the Wild, kind of like a
Yeah.
fusion between those two. I put it down for absolutely no good reason, so maybe this is a good opportunity to hop back in. How are you liking it so
Yeah.
far?
Loving it so
Yeah.
far, actually. I like there's this huge like narrative theme about sort of like leaving home and stuff like that, and
Mm,
kind of like striking out in your own direction, and the music's gorgeous, and the visual style is really striking. It's got this kind of like cell shaded style, but the character movement is like kind of choppy intentionally.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the main character kind of moves like at like a clipped frame rate, like kind of like an Into the Spider-Verse kind
Yes.
of vibe. And then yeah, like the actual gameplay is very reminiscent of Breath of the Wild. Climb anywhere, you glide around,
Hmm.
you're on your little Star Wars speeder bike, and yeah, it's really good. Like I like it quite a lot. I'm pretty early into it. I've only put in a couple hours, but so far I'm really digging it. So
Nice. I'm gonna have to check it out because it was just like I'm looking for that kind of like cool like Zen-esque experience right now. Like I might have
yes,
to hop back in. As
yeah,
for
good chance
myself,
for that.
been keeping busy. I finished Horizon Call of the Mountain. Really, really loved it. I'm just gonna go out and say I think it's my favorite Horizon. As someone who's like doesn't
Really?
completely connect with the main series, like I keep like liking them as I'm playing them, and then as I kind of step back from it, I'm kind of like, did I enjoy that much? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's
Sure.
just like it mechanically all fits, but like something about Call of the Mountain, maybe it is because it's VR, maybe it is because like it's such a more like, visceral experience just being in that world. I really, really
Mhm.
enjoyed it. The story is whatever, but like the combat's fun, the world is beautiful. Like going on those mountain climbs is again like a very like Zen-like experience, except when you get really high up, and then I was just like, "Oh, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down. I
Oh
swear,
God,
don't look
yeah.
down." Because a couple moments I did look down and I got like the whole body wave, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, here we go." But yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I had a blast with it. Keep playing Pistol Whip. That game is just so much fun. It's just so effortlessly cool. Like I just feel like such. I just feel amazing playing it. It's really, really cool. And I'm addicted to Pavlov, which is basically a Counter Strike but VR. It's
Yeah,
really, really funny, like running around these maps, and it's the same. Like if you ripped Counter Strike from like the mid 2000s and put it in VR today, like that's what that game is,
I'm into that.
with like
Yeah.
broken spawn points. Like I literally died, spawned. There was a guy right in front of me. He shot me. I respawned in the same exact spot and died again. So it's just like,
Is it multiplayer?
yes, dude, it's all online. It's
Oh
like it's
wow.
all like, well, there is like single player stuff you could do, but I've been playing it predominantly online. It's
Hmm.
such just like a fun mess. Like it just really recaptures that. Like it's been a while since I've been like, oh come on, are you serious? I had him, and it's like extra gratifying because when you do get that kill, you know that you aimed properly. Do you know what I mean? Like you know that this was
Yeah.
you took that shot. You know what I mean? It's really cool.
Nice. I'm
Um,
into that.
yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. And then I've been making my way through Trails to Azure. Yeah, the sequel to Trails from Zero, which is the Trail series, locked very much in the cross spell region. This is a game I've been waiting for a very, very long time. Huge shout out to NIS for sending over a review code. Really loving it. I'm a massive, massive fan of this series, and it just kind of picks up like a couple months after Trails from Zero, where it ends, and it kind of just really hits the ground running. Story is super, super interesting so far. They do a really interesting thing where they don't do like the video game amnesia that is so common with a lot of sequels, where you're like, oh,
Mm.
guess what?
Hmm.
You're level 1 again, and you lose all of your abilities. You've kept like everything, and even asked to like pull your save file over. I wasn't able to pull my save on the Steam Deck. I don't know if that's just because something about the way that the Steam Deck saves its stuff. Like I couldn't pull the save file from Trails from Zero, which is a little bit
Yeah.
disappointing. But like the game is just fantastic. I love the characters. The combat is so fun, and I always really love playing these games and trying to get in my characters in a certain build because like from some of the other entries, I literally got to the point where like end game bosses were not touching me because of the ways I had my character spec and I kept delaying their turns further and further out. It's really, really cool. Really, really loving it. I would not tell anyone to play this game without having played Trails from Zero because
I was gonna ask about that.
yeah. It very directly builds on Zero. Like 100%. You'd be very, very confused coming into this game if you just picked it up without, playing what came before. Because the cool thing about the Trails series is that like each Trails to or Trails from, it's like they're kind of, it's like Game of Thrones in the way that it's one giant world map, but each series takes place in a different area. So like you hear about events going on in Crossbell, like a lot of the other games, they keep referencing Crossbell, and now you're finally in Crossbell for these series. So it's all kind of interconnected in a way, but also kind of lives on its own. With the later Trails from Cold Steel is the ones that finally start bringing things together. But it's really, really good. Really, really enjoying it. For anybody who's into into JRPGs, especially anybody who's into your turn-based games, the Trails series is a must. It's a must. The storytelling is wild. The cliffhangers are ridiculous. Those games are so good. So go check out Trails from Zero, and then go check out Trails to Azure if you haven't as of yet, because those games are fantastic.
So you just, would you recommend, because hasn't it been going on since like the 80s? Like, isn't it a super old series?
It has been the kind of like most modern reinvention of them, from where like you would need to, if you want to get the full scope of the entire story, you would start with Trails in the Sky. And that one came out like, I think it was probably like the mid 2000s if I remember correctly. Hold on. Trails in the Sky. There we go. That's what I want to know, when this one started. Yeah, 2004. So like those kind of set up, and like these characters, some of these characters actually come back in Trails and Cold Steel and stuff. So like that's kind of where like the modern Trails started. But they're all fantastic. Like they are all like they deserve to be on the same level as like your Personas and like your Chronos and like all of the like the Final Fantasies. This series is so incredibly slept on. Because it has some of the best and most interesting storytelling, and the characters are fantastic. This series is really, really good. So I think like if you're looking for a jump on point, either go Trails in the Sky, go Trails from Zero, or go Trails of Cold Steel, and either one of them you'll get hooked, and then you'll end up playing all of them all over again anyway. So it's just they're that good.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was curious like what the jumping on point is for a new person. Like it's where you would start.
Any one of those three, it just differs in terms of where you are in the world, and also like Cold Steel In the Sky and Zero are like your classic sprite based, old school looking graphics, while Cold Steel kind of takes it into the more like 3D, what you would expect out of something like a Persona, and Cold Steel has a lot of like the same kind of relationship mechanics that you'd have with Persona. Well, the other games don't have that, but like there's kind of three great jumping on points, and then you end up being like, hold on, there's more. There's other amazing characters. Even though some of the games are older, the stories are fantastic and the gameplay holds up so well. I love the series, Seth. I love the series so much. It's so good. But without further ado, my dude, we have a bunch of news to talk about. Let's kick it off with the Capcom Spotlight that happened just last week. We're just going to quickly run through some of the highlights. If you missed Carpool Weekly from last week, Seth and I give you give you some more information there as well. But go check that out. Leave a like. Go check it out. It's a cool new series that we have on Carpool Gaming. Pretty awesome. From the Capcom Spotlight, this is written by Logan Plant, coming from IGN. We got a new demo for Resident Evil 4 called the Chainsaw Demo. It is available on PS5, PS4, and the Xbox Series and Steam. So make sure you go check that out. Exoprimal got a release date of July 14th, coming to PS5 and PS4. There will also be an open beta from March 17th to 19th, so that'll be this weekend if you want to go shooty some dinosaurs. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is coming to PlayStation this April, on April 28th. Ghost Trick is coming on June 30th. Resident Evil Death Island is a movie. We're not gonna talk about that. Street Fighter 6, it exists. Street Fighter 6 and it introduces a new commentator, Hikaru Takahashi. And of course, the highlight of the entire show, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, has some new content, including some patch cards, along with some different stuff you'll be using in Battle Network 4 and onwards. Seth, we got a pretty decent Capcom Spotlight, I would say. What would you say is your standout? What are you most excited about?
Ghost Trick. It's Ghost Trick all day long, baby. This is one of my favorite games of all time. It's only $29.99. It is coming to PlayStation. So I think it's like PS4, but you can play it on your PS5, whatever they got going on with that. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is one of my favorite games of all time. It is I guess, detective game slash visual novel where you're trying to it's a murder mystery where you're trying to solve your own murder, basically.
Okay.
And you're also you've got the ability kind of in the spirit world to save the lives of other people by rewinding time by 4 minutes. And you essentially have to create these like using the ghost trick mechanic, interact with the world in a limited way to do these kind of like Rube Goldberg sequences of things to save people's lives. And it's by the Ace Attorney creator Shu Takumi, so it's got all of the like personality of the Ace Attorney series, the writing, the music. This is a game on the Nintendo DS. It's got some of the best animation of any game ever, and it's getting remastered for modern consoles, and it is incredible, and I can't wait.
So you're kind of selling me on this. I've actually never played any of the Ace Attorney games, and I haven't played Ghost Trick before. As I mentioned, I'm one that I struggle with puzzles, dude. I always hit a point where it's like if it's too abstract or too obtuse, I end up just kind of wavering, and I'm like, I'm just gonna look up how to beat this. Will I like Ghost Trick? Should I give it a shot? Like how? Like, are the puzzles accessible? I think is the question that I'm trying to ask.
The fun thing about Ghost Trick is that even if you mess up, first of all, there's no real like consequence. You can just kind of like turn back time and tackle it again. It's not a big deal. But the funny thing about Ghost Trick is if you solve the puzzles to progress the story, great. But when you fail, when you fail puzzles, it's funny. Like to see the way it plays out. You're rewarded either way. So it's really great. Ace Attorney, I think there's like a massive sale going on right now, like a Capcom sale, and I think you can pick up the Ace Attorney series for like real cheap. So
okay,
there's that.
I think I actually own them. I think I have them on Switch, and like I started them and they just never kind of went back. But maybe this is a good opportunity too. Court Lalonde in the chat, chiming in from his vacation. Glad to hear from you. I put you in timeout because you're spreading lies. In terms of my favorite thing, I think Resident Evil 4 is something that I'm very excited about. This was kind of my introduction into Resident Evil back in the day on the GameCube. But I've hit this point now where like I'm doing the same thing with like Resident Evil 8, where like I start Resident Evils and then I end up like waiting and then end up playing them in VR. So like as excited as I am about this, I think I am going to end up waiting to see what the full VR mode is and probably play this in PSVR 2 just because the immersion is like next level. And like I don't know, like this is cool. Exoprimal, dude, every time I see this game, it just does less and less for me.
Yeah, I kind of love that it exists. Like I kind of love that like Capcom is putting so much money into this game where you're in mech suits and you're shooting dinosaurs.
Right?
But it's not for me. Like, I don't look at it and say, like, this is something I want to play. But, like, at the same time, I'm kind of glad that a company like Capcom is willing to dump money into a dumb idea like this.
I really wonder how it's gonna go. But yeah, I think this is cool. Obviously, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is something I'm very excited about. Having all of these new patch cards and everything that's been added is so unbelievably cool. I can't wait for all this stuff. Also, Mega Buster mode, which implies your attack power by 100 to get the battles faster. Again, anything that lets you modify the game for having an easier time with it, because some of those fights are tough.
Accessibility.
Exactly. Let people play the way that they want to play. Maybe Court will actually play it now, and maybe he'll stop listening to me rant about it constantly. But
it'll be my first time playing them, so I'm excited.
I can't wait. I will. I think I told you this before, but I'll say it again. The first game has not aged exceedingly well. Just know that it gets a lot better. The first game is still wonderful, and it's like I guess if you don't know what comes after, it's easier to kind of hop into, and then because the games will just get progressively better. Quality of life just gets progressively better. Story gets progressively better. First one's great. It's awesome for kind of introducing you to the world and everything that comes with it. I can't wait for this game, Seth, dude. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
All over it, dude. Can't wait.
Let's move on to our next story coming from Tom Ivan over on VGC. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League could be delayed to 2024. It's claimed. Multiple reports claim Warner is set to confirm another delay for Rocksteady's game. On Thursday, a Bloomberg source claimed Warner has decided to push the title from its previously announced May release date to the second half of 2023. Following the report, which Warner has yet to officially comment on, Giant Bomb reporter Jeff Grubb said a reliable source told him that the Rocksteady's game may not arrive until next year. I don't want to cause a panic or anything, but I've heard it's not even coming this year. I'm hearing 2024, he said. So evidently this was partially because of the showcase during the PlayStation State of Play that we got last, which was, infamously not met with very kind words and feelings from people online. A lot of complaints that, why are these four pretty fantastic DC characters all just using guns? The giant purple, weak spots on enemies was something that was called out, along with the live service elements, which I know people are not too happy about. But Seth, what do you think about this rumored delay? Do you think that this means that the game is going to be significantly different the next time we see it? Where's your head at with all this?
Man, it's so weird because we're hearing these like different reports. Like Jason Schreier was like, "Yeah, I'm hearing it's not like a huge delay. It's still 2023. It's just going to be kind of like late in the year." Now Jeff Grubb's saying it's going to be like next year. Like I really feel like if they delay this game into 2024, like all of any like modicum of interest there was in the game will fizzle out. Like I feel like people will be so checked out by that point. They're too deep in to like fundamentally change what this game is.
Mm-hmm.
This game just is a live service game, but we're hoping that because it's Rocksteady, they make it make sense. And my hope is that Jason's original report, which was it just needed more spit and polish, so they're delaying it a few months or whatever. I hope that's what's going on here versus let's try to like make this game something it's not. You kind of need to just release it and just let what's gonna happen, because I feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're gonna delay it a year.
I definitely think that part of this has to do with Gotham Knights and the reception that game got, just because, again, like that wasn't one that was commercially or critically lauded. It wasn't something that was very, very celebrated. And it's unfortunate because I think you're spot on. I think they are way too deep at this point to really overhaul this game in any significant way. I think if anything, if they are just pushing it to later this year, like you mentioned, it's just bugs and making the game kind of overall a bit better. If they're pushing it to next year, I hope that they do something a little more than just bugs and things. Whether that's reworking the live service aspect of it, reworking the always online. I don't know if we're going to see a significantly different game, but if they end up pushing it all the way to next year, they have to do something at least halfway important, because then, like you mentioned, people are just not going to care anymore, right? Like we're going to have Spider-Man 2, where there's going to be Tears of the Kingdom. There's so much coming between now and then that it's just kind of like Suicide Squad is going to come out and then people are going to be like, oh yeah, this game exists. And they're not going to be able to capture that kind of initial excitement built around the game, because there are still people that are excited. Court's excited about the game, and again, like, to each their own. I think there is the good. Again, we reacted to it. It does look fun. It does look fluid. It does look interesting. But they need to do something to kind of recapture people, because right now a lot of people are down and out on the game after what we saw from it. After Gotham Knights, there's a lot of reason to be wary about what this is, and I think that if it wasn't Rocksteady, this game would be DOA. Like
1000%.
A lot, and like it's the same reason that like I'm halfway like maybe I'll still give it a chance when it comes out. Like it does look fun, is because it's Rocksteady. So I'm curious to see how this is kind of going to change and evolve, and if it will. Let alone, when do you think we're going to get some sort of confirmation? I mean, Schreier and Grubb are rarely wrong, which would mean that like it has to be an announcement has to be relatively imminent. And then tell me then. When do you think we'll actually see the game? Is it this year? Is it next year? Hit me with your crystal ball predictions.
Yeah, it was. We mentioned we kind of just off the cuff. I think I said September 15th, just randomly on
something like
Carpool
that.
Weekly. But it turns out that is a Friday. So I looked at that. I was like, hey, maybe. I just threw it out there. But I hope that it's that level of delay. Like if we're just delaying it from May, I think it was 26th initially.
I believe you're right.
If we're just delaying that to like September, like a 4-month, sort of delay, I think that's totally fine. Like if really what I guess it really just depends on like what this delay is for. Is it just for extra time in the oven? Is it going to be something significant? I'm hoping it's the former. I'm hoping they're just like delaying it to like say September. I think it's a good idea to get out of May. You
Hmm.
don't nobody wants to be in Tears of the Kingdom month.
Nope.
Nobody does, right? So move it out. Yeah, I think you got to release it this year. I hope for their sake they're releasing it this year. When they communicate it is going to be strange because I do feel like they're going to need to sit on it for a little while, because it was just like what 3 weeks ago when they
Hmm.
had that showcase where it's like, hey, get excited, and they like rolled that May 26th date back out again. And it's like you can't then come in with your tail between your legs like 3 weeks later and say, oh, actually, so maybe what this is maybe we get, kind of a reintroduction to it in, June, whatever, that kind of like E3 area spot where people like to dump news. Even though Sony won't be at E3, maybe they sort of trudge it back out at that point, announce a new date, like just before, kind of, because it would have been delivered by May anyway. So maybe kind of like next month or something.
Yeah.
And, they're like, hey, it's coming in September. Look for it at June. Maybe that's the strategy. I don't know. We'll
I
see.
I think you probably are on to what was the original plan. I think with the reports
Yeah.
going on now, I think the longer they sit on it, the worse it'll be. Like at this point, like if the
Mm,
news is already out there, they might as well be like, yeah, it's coming later. It's coming later. I don't think we're gonna get another date. I like in my mind, they may be trying to figure out internally when this thing does come out. So I think once they delay it, I think they'll just kind of go with that sometime later this year or sometime later. Like
oh
I
man.
don't know if they're going to be specific in terms of their timing. And then maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Once we do see that June E3 season where we start to see a lot of the news roll out, that's when they reconfirm a date, because I feel like at that point they're going to kind of have to, if they're going to be showing the game
Hmm.
off again. Just saying 2023 or even just saying 2024 would really not be great. It would not be a good look. So I think,
Yeah.
before these reports came out, I think you're spot on. I probably like that's probably exactly what they wanted to do. I think at this point they should just confirm the delay and then get ready to tell us more in a few months, because I don't think they have to tell us when now, as much as people would want that information. I just don't know if they're ready to
Yeah.
talk about it, especially if like two very very credible insiders, with Schreier and Grubb, are a little bit conflicted on when it's coming. I That tells me that internally they're not ready to talk about when yet.
You're probably right. You're probably right, because I think, we're probably gonna wake up on Twitter tomorrow
Yep.
and see like a one shot image that's
Yellow
just like
image.
a solemn, yeah, a
Yeah.
solemn message from the Rocksteady team, right? You're probably right. I think, and realistically, I think that like the treatment of something like, say, Starfield has probably sort of normalized that approach a little bit, where
Hmm.
it's like, hey, we're giving it a sort of indefinite delay, and now it's like, hey, here's the new date. We're gonna do I'm not saying they're gonna do a Suicide Squad direct, but the approach Starfield took was, here's your new date, here's your direct when you get to see more of it. So maybe this is almost like a miniaturized version of that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
could see that.
That
You're
could be
probably
it.
right.
But we will see. We will keep you all posted as we hear more about it. Moving on to our next story. Sony believes that PlayStation VR 2 has a good chance of outselling the original, coming from Tom Ivan over at VGC. The original PlayStation VR launched for PS4 in October 2016 and has sold 5 million units by the end of 2019, according to Sony. During a fireside chat at the Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference on Monday, Sony Executive Deputy President and Chief Financial Officer Hiroki Totoki was announced to evaluate PSVR 2's launch and what the company's expectations are for the hardware going forward. We are very happy to launch VR2 on PS5. VR1, we sold over 5 million units, and I think we have a good chance to exceed that amount with the PSVR2. He went on to talk about how it could be one of the largest growth areas in the media and entertainment segment during the first half of this decade. So it seems that, at least, word of mouth so far, PSVR 2, people are very, very happy with the units themselves.
Yeah.
The giant lingering question on everybody's lips just seems to be what's next. But it seems to be that PlayStation is feeling pretty bullish on the kind of overall success of this thing. Seth, what do they need to do to make sure that they do clear 5 million? Because again, as of 2019, I'm sure that number's higher already. That selling that well is pretty good. Do you think it stands a chance at doing better? And what does it need to do to get there?
It needs games, first of
Hmm.
all, I think. I think my big takeaway as somebody who doesn't have a PSVR 2 and I like VR, and I messed with PSVR 1 and everything. I've had like kind of, touchstones here and there. People who play PSVR 2 love it pretty
Mhm.
universally. Like it sounds like it's a high quality unit. It's not a question of the hardware, it's just like what's available on it.
Mhm.
And I think that they have shown us some interesting stuff that's coming, but with the exception of like a few launch titles or whatever, I sort of feel like there isn't like a like a huge touchstone of something to look forward to. I was really hoping at the last state of play for a Half-Life Alex, for
Mhm.
something of that caliber. I'm telling you right now, like if they announced Half-Life Alex for that thing, I would be looking to buy one actively. You know, like it needs something like that, like some kind of big, like Horizon Call of the Mountain. I feel like is sort of like that, but when you're already like a launch title, like they've already kind of like come out the gate with that.
Mhm.
So what now? Like
Yep.
what's next? And if it's just gonna be VR support for the games we've already played, I don't think that's gonna cut it.
Mhm.
I think you need good quality first party releases in like known franchises, and I think that's the kind of stuff that you need to make it sell more. And also just like there are people who have like sticker shock with the sort of like price of it, the
Yep.
fact that you already need a PS5, which aren't, is only kind of just now becoming the kind of thing you can walk into a Walmart and buy.
Mhm.
So I feel like a lot of people are only just now being worked into the PS5 ecosystem in general. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of room to grow, but I think that games are kind of at the heart of growth in general. And also like games would also be a communication of their dedication to take the platform seriously,
Yes.
you know.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head right there because again, the tech is fantastic and I'm really enjoying mine so far. The biggest question is just what's next. Horizon
Mhm.
can't be their only first party thing this year, right? Like when you're looking at a launch of a new console, because that's essentially what this is.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
just a
platform.
peripheral, right? Like this isn't just something that you can use and then put it away. Like this is like you mentioned, it's an investment. It's a lot of money to hop into this. With people now hopping onto PS5 and probably like what was it last month had one of the highest record sales I think it was for
Mhm.
PS5, like they're becoming more readily available. There's people are hopping in and they want to see what's next. I think if we get like your two first party VR games or something along those lines, or at least first party IPs a year, I think that would be a really good clip to move at because they need to show people why this is important. The original PSVR sold so well because the PS4 install base was huge. This like people had already purchased the PSVR, the PS4 years before, and that sticker shock probably wears off a little bit more when it's I've already have the thing that I need to use this. Now I can just buy the thing. They need to show people why now that people are joining the PS5 ecosystem, now that these things are more readily available. Why 6 months from now? Why a year from now? Why is it important to have this? Why is it important to have the PSVR 2? I think if they do that, especially with we see stuff like Black Friday sales, if we see different stuff going around, I think this thing could very well outsell the original PSVR because I think that like again, a lot of the things that people wanted out of PSVR are here in the PSVR 2. Now they just need to stick the landing, and I really, really, really hope they do so because this thing is awesome. Um,
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I think a lot of it too is the sort of communication of it on Sony's part. I think is going to be important. That again, that dedication to the games, to the software,
mhm.
is going to be important because people. I think that the average person now who is looking at it views it as effectively a very expensive accessory for their PS5,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
That's not what it is. It's a platform, and they should market it as such. Like it
100%.
should be treated as its own thing with its own must-have games.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, that's why I think that the way that they approached the initial PSVR was right. They treated it as a new console, and I just hope that they're going to give this one the same room to grow and the same well, no, better support to kind of really
Yeah.
let it take off and run on its own legs. But we will see. Moving on to our next story. The Last of Us Part 1's PC features and specs have been revealed. This is from Chris Scullion over on VGC. Ultra-wide monitor support and other PC features are confirmed. Of course, this is coming at the end of the month on March 28th. So we got a good look at what's coming. Of course, we got the PC specs. We got confirmation of the ultra-wide support, 21.9 and 32.9 super ultra-wide. Feature support for the DualSense controller with a wired connection, which means that players will finally be able to use the same feedback and dynamic triggers functionality as in the original PS5 version. There's AMD FSR 2.2 support, NVIDIA DLSS, VSync, and a whole bunch of other features for only for PC, including the texture quality, shadows, reflections, and so on and so forth. I'm really excited about this. I'm waiting to find out whether we are getting... can I play this on the Steam Deck? That's my biggest question. That's what I want to know. Right. I would love to have The Last of Us Part 1 on the go. Seth, are you going to double dip here? Are you interested at all in Part 1 on PC?
No, because I'm just gonna I'll just play it on PS5. For me, that's like I appreciate the notion of it. It's gonna be what's gonna be great for this, for me anyway, is like seeing like the footage of it, like seeing people playing it on a souped up PC, seeing how pretty that game can look. It already looks so good, so it'll be cool to see like with all those settings ramped up to max. That'll be cool.
It will be cool. Yeah. I'm excited to see more. But yeah, just wanted to keep everyone briefed that this thing is imminent. It's just a couple weeks away, and I'm sure is going to have a wonderful sales bump from the the season finale of The Last of Us Season 1, which again, Seth and I are going to have our post-show recap going up a little bit later today, so get excited about that. A story I'm very, very excited about, coming from IGN, written by Logan Plant. New Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi game announced with a teaser trailer. Bandai Namco has announced the return of Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi over 15 years after the franchise's last main entry. I'm going to pull up the tweet right here, and we're just going to play this for everybody while Seth and I talk about this. Dude, I am a massive, massive Budokai fan. I grew up on Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi. As much as I liked Fighter Z or Fighters, whatever it was, I really miss this style of Dragon Ball Z Fighter, and I'm so excited it's coming back. I can't wait. Does this do anything for you? Are you excited about Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi coming back?
I never played them. Sorry. I've never played the Budokai. I'm very familiar with them. I know it breaks your heart. I'm sorry. Yeah. I have I worked at GameStop for many, many years. I have, seen probably I probably sold 1 million copies of those games over the years, right? And I'm very familiar with this series. Obviously grew up with Dragon Ball, just like most people, kind of in our age bracket did, so I would be interested in this. I really liked Fighter Z, but this is a very different, that sort of almost kind of 3D arena kind of vibe to it, more so than Fighter Z, which is almost like a Marvel versus Capcom style kind of thing. But yeah, this is I'm very happy for you, and the millions of other people that I know are very nostalgic for Budokai and Tenkaichi.
I'm so excited about this, dude. I hope we get stuff like multiple transformations back, because those games you could go from base all the way up to Super Saiyan 4 in a match. It wasn't they weren't separate characters you had to worry about. So I hope we get a lot of cool stuff like that, which obviously Fighter Z didn't have in the same way, because they were different characters. I want to see that kind of versatility and that kind of flexibility back. I can't wait. We will obviously keep you posted as we hear more, but that's right, Budokai is back.
Nice.
And our final story, my friend, before we get into questions from our wonderful audience, comes from the PlayStation blog itself, because we had a new system software roll out globally last week, introducing Discord voice chat on PS5. There is a cool little video that shows you how to connect your accounts. If you've already connected your account previously, you will have to reconnect your account. It is not just, it's not just going to work out of the box. So very, very cool. There's a bunch of stuff here. You can start or request share screen from a friend's profile. There's stuff like manually uploading game captures to the PlayStation app. VRR refresh rate for 1440p is also here, and a whole bunch of other accessibility stuff. Another big one here, PS4 to PS5 save data migration. This has always been a headache, so I'm glad that they're at least trying to simplify it or make it a little bit more accessible. When you download or install a PS4 game on your PS5 console, a notification that the PS4 save data is available on your PlayStation Network cloud storage will appear. So that way you'll know if you have it and how you can download it So that will hopefully make things a little bit easier. Then you have to manually go in, pull the save data, and pull it down. But of course, the big highlight here is Discord voice chat finally
Yeah.
being on PS5. Seth, what do you think?
Yeah, this is huge. There are a lot of people in the Carpool gaming community on our Discord who are very excited about this functionality to have Discord to be able to chat and like screen share and like stream into Discord and stuff from your PS5. It's gonna be huge for people who are not, you know, the type of people like us who have like capture cards and things like this and can do this stuff easily.
Yep.
It's great to have this kind of integration for people to be able to share these experiences with friends and communities in Discord. It's great.
Yeah, I'm with you entirely. Like, it's nice to finally be able to have a chat with other people who are on different platforms. You know, I play Fortnite occasionally with my younger cousin and my younger brother, and it's just like, you know, it was always like the headphone on and then an extra headphone in connected to my phone to be able to use Discord to be able to chat properly and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm excited this functionality is finally here. Anything that kind of helps bridge the gap between these ecosystems to just allow people to play the way that they want to with who they want to, regardless of platform, I totally support. So I'm excited that this is here finally, and hopefully we get more of this. Hopefully we get this even more expanded in different ways.
Here in Nintendo land, they're all like, pull out your smartphone app and like chat on like your stupid smartphone app and only certain games. You know, it's this is way better.
It's okay, dude. Just you know, just share your 26-digit long friend code if you want to add somebody on.
Yeah. We're all good.
We're all good. All right, dude, let's get into some questions. If you want your question read on the show, we send out a question post each and every week. You can comment there, comment on the video, or join our free Discord where you can also interact with the backtrackers. Yes. All the links are in the show notes. So let's run through some of these questions. Just like Sumit Roy at Black Wyver asks, this was in reference to Gotham Knights. There's a lot of praise or a lot of hope that TMNT will get a AAA treatment a la Gotham Knights.
Oh.
So the question was here, that's exactly what I was hoping for last year when we got glimpses of Gotham Knights gameplay, referring to the TMNT. But I'll also be happy with God of War style TMNT game based on the last Ronin comic. What do you guys think? Do you want a Gotham Knights Turtles game? Do you want a God of War Turtles game? Or do you want something else entirely, Seth?
You know what I really want? After playing Shredder's Revenge last year, which is that game's amazing.
Yes.
Shredder's Revenge is so good. That to me is so ripe for like a fighting game. Just like all the characters in that game,
Okay.
with that like kind of pixel art take on the like 80s retro, like nostalgic, like to make a fighting game, like a 2D proper like Street Fighter-esque fighting game with that same vibe and sprite work and music and all of the characters, these random characters like the Punk Frogs and Wingnut and these like classic kind of TMNT characters. I love that. Now for the last Ronin, I think that they're spot on. Like to do the last Ronin in that style makes a lot of sense because it is dark and gritty and stuff like that. So if you're going to do a game based on that, then totally, you're in that God of War mode. Yeah, I could absolutely see that, or like even that kind of Arkham, you know, vibe. I could totally see that for that. But if we're talking classic Turtles, I literally just want a Shredder's Revenge fighting game, essentially.
I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm totally with you there. Yeah, I'm not familiar with The Last Ronin, but everything that I've heard about it, God of War, like the God of War treatment
awesome.
sounds fantastic. Especially, you know, you're just moving through and just completely kicking butt. I'm all about it. In terms of like, I've really wanted a big AAA open world TMNT game for a long time. I want basically, but I want it in the vibe of like a Sunset Overdrive. This world isn't like this world and these characters are inherently like silly, ridiculous, like very much out there. So like, give me like Gotham Knights and Sunset Overdrive fused together. Very loud, very colorful, very fun, and I think the TMNT characters would fit really, really well in that kind of in that kind of aesthetic. I want it. I want it really bad. I don't know if we're ever going to get it, but it does seem that we're getting more TMNT stuff. We just got the announcement of Seth Rogen's. We got the trailer for the first one, which is looking
so good, too.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I want them to have fun with these characters. Like, that's one of the reasons I think Shredder's Revenge worked so well, is because, yes, it played on our nostalgia, but it was also bright. It was fun. It was colorful. Like, I want both The Last Ronin, God of War style, and I want the AAA open world action game that's just fun, bright, colorful, and just, you know, just a blast to run around. I can just imagine running across the rooftops with some friends as we're kind of hopping over. Super cool, dude. I want it.
Oh
I
yeah,
want it.
yeah. They're very different, like kind of vibes. Because when the Turtles started, the Turtles were that kind of dark, gritty kind of thing.
Mhm.
It was black and white. It was, it was like a Daredevil parody, effectively, when the Turtles started. That's why instead of having Daredevil's mentor Stick, you have Splinter. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like instead of the hand, you got the Foot Clan. So it's
Yeah.
it's a Daredevil parody. So it was totally in that moment. But then when you get into the 80s and 90s, it became what you're talking about, the sort of colorful, totally like rad,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Cowabunga,
And
dude.
yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I very much, I think we can have our cake and eat it too. The Last Ronin will be interesting because a huge part of that story is told via flashback. So it would be interesting to see how they would tackle that story. But yes, to your point, I want both.
I want both. Give us both. Please give us both. Our next question comes from Gaming Together Podcast at Game Together Pod. If you had the executive decision, what franchises would you trade with Microsoft or Nintendo to get to experience them on PlayStation with trophy support? Make it fair. Don't trade Knack for Gears of War or Days Gone for Mario. It's a good
I
question.
like Days Gone actually. Um, Man, that's a deep question. You know what? I have been sitting on this sort of idea for a while. I love probably still, and I haven't rolled credits on many games on my PS5, but Astro's Playroom is so good.
Mhm.
Like that game was genuinely amazing. I really I really think that Nintendo could use something like that. Like it feels like I have this idea that like Astro's Playroom kind of out Nintendo's Nintendo,
Okay.
because not only is it just a great feeling 3D platformer, and it even has got a little bit of that like Mario Sunshine kind of vibe to it with the like jetpack thing,
Mhm.
but it also has a great way of like minding its past and like paying homage to past like Sony properties. I'm like, why don't we have something like this for Nintendo? Nintendo has got a treasure trove of IP, that it could reference and like kind of pay homage to. And Astro, like that game loves PlayStation,
Mhm. Yep.
and I wish we had something like that on Nintendo. So that would be my sort of I guess pull, if I were to pull anything from Sony to Nintendo Land, and vice versa. It's hard not to play something like a Breath of the Wild. As much as I love Breath of the Wild and as excited as I am for Tears of the Kingdom, it is hard, as good as that already looks and as stylized as it is, and as big as it is. It's on an underpowered platform.
Mhm.
And it's hard not to wonder what it would look, feel, run like on something like a PlayStation 5.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that I necessarily am like crazy about this reality, but if I had to do any of those things, I think I would give something like Zelda to PlayStation and something like Astrobot to Nintendo.
I think you're kind of spot on with Astrobot. Like, it would be really, really cool if Nintendo did something similar. Because, like, I know we've had stuff like Nintendo Land, and we've had some kind of celebration of their history, with Smash Bros. Obviously kind
Yeah.
of being a big one. But again, like, in terms of how joyful and how just absolute, like, the amount of happiness that Astro kind of brings when you're playing it is very much like reminiscent of the way that a lot of the Nintendo Mario games do. They kind of elicit the
Yeah.
same feelings. They have that same kind of reaction. So I think you're spot on. I think Astro going to Nintendo would be really, really cool, and just to see how they would kind of build out the world around it. I think for me, what I would want to see kind of brought over, so like, I don't know what I would give up in its place, to be honest, because I think I have to kind of stew on that a little bit. But I'd love to bring Metroid over to PlayStation.
Mm.
And I think
Hmm.
that's because we don't really have a lot of great first person shooters. And I'm speaking more towards like the Prime side of Metroid. We don't really have
Sure.
any kind of first person shooter, especially first person shooter adventure games. We don't have a lot of them on PlayStation, which is obviously like they've now recognized that, and I'm sure they have stuff in development. But I would love to see what, like, I don't know what, maybe not Bend, but like even like Gorilla. Give me Gorilla and Metroid. Give me I want to see what Gorilla could do in terms of like the story, the narrative, the actual first person. But I also think we could get something really cool multiplayer wise from Gorilla handling a Metroid. I think that universe is so rich, and I think they could all like it would also almost like Game Nasty in the chat, Metroid to Bungie. That's perfect. That is
Yeah,
perfect. You
I
could
can see
do
that.
so much there. There's so much availability to do really cool things with them. I mean, it could be like their own Halo, quote unquote, in terms of having a first person shooter that could be very agile, that could be a lot of fun, that could have really weird and interesting environments. I would really like to see kind of, what a PlayStation slash Bungie take on Metroid would look like. And
Yeah.
kind of going in the opposite direction, I really think that I would like to see a Nintendo developed Infamous. I think that would be really,
Oh.
really cool. In terms of bringing on kind of like a third person open world superhero game. Because like we have Spider-Man on PlayStation now. I'd be really curious to see what Nintendo would do with that property. And in terms of like Xbox, I don't know. I don't really know if I would trade anything, honestly, just because I feel like a lot of what Xbox has, like I might trade. I don't know. I don't think I would. I don't think I would do any swaps on the Xbox side. Is there anything you
Yeah.
would do?
It's it's weird because I also am thinking about like the totality of these companies, right? And something that as an old school PlayStation fan that and an old school Xbox fan actually, it sort of annoys me that some of these like great old kind of weird IP on both of these platforms are a little bit underserved in the modern age.
Hmm.
Like Jet Set Radio Future on original Xbox is my second favorite game of all time. I like if you put that game on Switch or whatever,
Hmm.
it would instantly be one of the best games on the platform. Like that game is incredible. It still holds up. You don't have to do a thing to it.
True.
That's an original Xbox game, and it's fantastic still. Games like Phantom Dust, like I think could work perfectly in the modern age. PS1 games, like I think about, like weird kind of like games that they used to do on PS1, on Jammer Lammy. PS2 games like Gitaru Man, I think would be great in the modern age. Like I think about things like Parappa, which they kind of tried to bring Parappa
Yeah.
back on PS4, and even PSP stuff like Patapon and Loco Roco and stuff like that. That these are great. They're not like triple A dark and gritty, things or whatever, but these are great little games that I think really strengthened PlayStation's IP. And I do miss seeing stuff like that. So
I think that's a good point. Moving on to our next question from Marcus McCracken. Marcus asks, so I have a question regarding how you place your PlayStation 5's consoles. Does it matter if you have it vertical? Just curious, as I've seen rumors that it could damage the console in the long run. And as of right now, I have both my Xbox and PlayStation vertical. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were. Yeah, there were reports going on, but I think they were kind of debunked. I think I remember Court doing a bunch of research. It's one of those situations where I'm not sure if Xbox has this issue or not. But like PlayStation, it doesn't seem to be a significant issue. It may be one of those things that like it could happen. There is a chance that it could happen with some of the innards kind of like leaking and damaging the console. So like if you were to put it horizontal, that might mitigate that chance. I don't think it's a large chance. I don't remember it being like a significant problem. I think it's more of like a better safe than sore kind of thing. Mine is still vertical
sure.
right now. I like mine vertical.
Team Vertical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
team vertical. So like mine will probably stay that way. I've had no issues as of yet, but I think it's partly a personal preference thing, but partly I know there were some stories going on of issues. But I don't know, Seth, do you have any thoughts or feelings on the vertical versus
Yeah.
horizontal?
I wonder if it's one of those like things where like it's such a like specific situation. It's almost like when people freak out about OLED TVs or whatever having like screen burn. It's like, yeah, but you gotta leave it on a static image for like 100 hours in order for that to be a factor.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
something like that, like hyper specific things that like it's not actually a problem. So I
Yeah.
bet it's like that.
I'm going to pull an article that I just pulled up from Game Rant, written by Smangaliso Similane, saying that the
Whoa.
PS5 vertical setup controversy explained. Reports came in that PlayStation 5 vertically might harm the hardware. It seems that it might be a false alarm, and gamers can rest assured that their console is fine no matter what orientation it's in. Saying in early 2023, a report came in from Wololo.net that the PS5 could damage, referring to the liquid metal used to cool the APU can sometimes spill and become uneven, resulting in internal components breaking. Apparently, there was a bunch going on all over the internet. It seems that the site ended up issuing an update saying that it misquoted the console repair, that's saying that the claims that the issue affects consoles still in the box. It seems that in the end, it's probably gamers have PlayStation's best for gamers to trust Sony. So it seems it was a bit of a misreporting, a bit of a, it wasn't, the information wasn't completely communicated entirely, and that the console will continue to work. So I don't think you have anything to worry about for now. Moving on to some questions from the Discord. Dr. Chaka asks, what is the greatest video game adaptation? Why is it HBO's The Last of Us? Hashtag, okay.
It's real good. It's real good. I don't know. We're a little too close to the Mario movie for me to say that, but it is really good.
I think the only way The Last of Us could have been better is if Chris Pratt played Joel. I think that was a real missed opportunity. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, yeah, The Last of Us was incredible. Get ready for the post show today, because Seth and I'm sure are going to have plenty to talk about. But I loved it. I absolutely adored it. It's easily
Chris Pratt is Ellie.
Chris Pratt is Ellie.
Even. Yeah.
Chris Pratt as the rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Rabbit.
Chris Rabbit.
Yeah, would have been good.
Chris Prabbit. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. Drellish asks, I so desperately want an updated Vita again to enjoy my PlayStation games, but alas, this will never happen. However, signs late last year, like the purchase of Savage Game Studios, as well as the newly created PlayStation Studios mobile division, makes me hopeful that we might see some iteration of PlayStation games on mobile in that not too distant future. Question: what are your thoughts and hopes of experiencing PlayStation games, quote unquote, natively on mobile devices, as in not via remote play? What do you think the roadmap could look like for Sony, and what is the earliest we might hear or see anything?
I do miss the Vita. The Vita was a great little system. I think and the Vita was like great about having, it did have like some big first party. It just didn't have a huge early adoption base.
Yep.
People didn't like kind of jump in on the Vita. It wasn't until later, especially when kind of like more niche like RPG franchises and stuff, it became a great RPG machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
For many people. But the Vita was a great little system. I honestly don't have many notes about like hardware, like how they could improve hardware. I just don't know if Sony like is wanting to reinvest in that again after that happened. PSP was a massive success, and Vita like kind of wasn't by comparison in terms of sales. I could see them taking some of the IP, similar things to what I just mentioned, and translating that to mobile. It'd be kind of interesting to see how they could translate some of that stuff to mobile. I do miss playing PlayStation games that way. I don't know if it's a huge priority for them, though.
Yeah, I love the Vita. I love this thing entirely. And the Steam Deck is basically Vita 2.0, which I'm very happy about. Yeah. In terms of what PlayStation Mobile might look like, I think we'll probably start to see it in the next couple of years. I don't think that it's something that we'll see very quickly. And unfortunately, as much as I would love for it to be something that's actually fantastic on mobile, I'm a little bit more worried that they're going to go the way of like your Super Mario Run and like kind of like them make them like very mobile games. I don't want to see Jin Sakai, running through Japan as you're kind of slicing stuff as it comes at you. Like I think I look at like Marvel Snap, which again, like I'm not a big mobile player, but like that game has me inherently locked in. Like I've been playing it ever since launch and I haven't put it down. So I think if they find a way to use these IPs in a really significant and fun way, because I think the biggest problem that a lot of people have with mobile games is the gacha mechanics, is how pay to win things can feel and how much like it feels like these games are constantly draining your wallet. So I think if they're able to kind of sidestep that and actually give us meaningful experiences, like I don't know, a Last of Us tactics game, like put that on mobile, like give us something like
it's a great idea.
You know what I mean? Like you could do something like a Marvel Snap and have some sort of card game that kind of brings all of your IPs together. There's a lot of things that they could do. And I would hope that that's the direction that they're going to run in, just because then again, you have a lot of different synergistic things. New Uncharted games coming out, new Last of Us event, this new Last of Us coming out, you have an event in the game. There are different things that they could do. So I'd hope once we start seeing this coming, I think what I really wouldn't be surprised of if we get some sort of mobile shooter. Things like Fortnite, things like, the Battle Royale games are huge on mobile. Those 12 games that they said that are coming from PlayStation that, are going to be, Battle Royales. Maybe one of those ends up in the mobile category. I don't know. I'm
maybe that Horizon thing that was leaked a little while ago. Kind of looks Fortnite-ish.
Yeah, exactly. Having the ability to have some, play that on the go would be cool. So like, I don't know. I'm nervous that they're going to go the more pay to win. Here's like your cheap reskin of a game that we already have, but guess what? It's PlayStation. But I would hope I'm wrong, and that they give us some cool, like genuinely awesome experiences on mobile, because, you know, I was used to say that I wouldn't play games on my phone, and my Marvel Snap has ruined me. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what's in store. But that, my friend, brings us to the end of the show. Before we go, Seth, if people wanted to hear and see and hear more from you, where could they do so?
They could do so here on Carpool Gaming on the Nintendo Drive, where I'm one of the co-hosts along with Sean Capri and Locklith. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at $2 Hero as well. But you're already in the right place, especially if you're watching us here on YouTube. Like and subscribe. You're in the right place.
Make sure you please like and subscribe. Hit us with those comments. We appreciate all of you very, very much. As for myself, you can find me over on Twitter at Matt_SilverSoul, here on the PlayStation Drive, and of course on our Last of Us review post-show special. Final episode will go all live later today, so get excited about that. But before we go, of course, we have to make sure we thank all of our wonderful patrons, including our ultimate producers, Robbie Bobby Miller. Subscribe to Robbie Bobby's Twitch channel at twitch.tv/RobbieBobbyMiller. Trucker Sloth, Tony Baker from Quest for Pixels. Please subscribe to youtube.com/Quest for Pixels today. Jonathan Brown, the new album from PME is called Video Game Boy and is available on Spotify and Apple Music. Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. Links are in the show notes. Please support these ultimate producers. Our platinum producers, Marcus McCracken and RJ Curran, and our gold members, Anna, Bowza, Cecily Carosa, Dallas Robbins, Drellish, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Jonas Young, Jose Jimenez, Marcus O'Neill, Tim Paulin, and hold on, I have to scroll down to see Dano as well. Thank you, Dano. And
We got
Hopple.
Hopple's new.
Yep.
Yep. We
And
got Blah Blah Blah.
blah, blah, blah in our gold member category. All of you, thank you so much for all of your support. We appreciate all of you very, very much. And we will see you next week. Peace.
Bye bye.